All right, welcome back everyone to part 7 in chapter 13, Achieving Energy Sustainability. And today we're talking about wind energy. First topic of discussion is generating electricity from wind, how it's done, and then we'll talk about it being a non-depletable resource. And just like the similar chapters, or similar sections, sorry, we're going to be able to explain the advantages and the disadvantages of using wind energy as our objective. So first of all, wind energy is the most rapidly growing source of electricity around the world, and we'll take a look at some graphs in a minute. But the wind, as we talked about briefly in chapter 4, the wind results from uneven heating of the Earth's atmosphere. And so what happens with using the wind is that we can use a wind turbine to convert that kinetic energy, the energy in motion, and we can turn that into electrical energy. That's the basic premise behind using the wind as a source of electricity. So this graph here shows us wind capacity on the left and the percentage of electricity generated from wind on the right. And as we can see on the graph from the left, that the United States has the greatest wind capacity out of all the countries that are listed here. By and large, 35 gigawatts of electricity is produced from wind in the United States. However, if we take a look at the total electricity that's generated and the percents of we can see that the United States is right over here. Right about 1% of our electricity comes from the wind, whereas Denmark is well up over 20, about 22% of Denmark's electricity is generated by the wind. So again, a wind turbine, that's going to be the actual mechanism that turns the wind into electricity, again converting the kinetic energy into electrical energy. And so how does that process work? Well, the wind is going to spin the blade, okay, and then that blade is going to be connected to the gearbox, which is going to transfer that mechanical energy, the energy in motion, to the generator. And then the generator down here is going to convert the mechanical energy into electricity, and then that electricity will be able to be put out onto the grid. Now, wind turbines are typically located in rural locations. They're usually away from buildings and population centers, but they also do have to be close to an electrical grid. And usually wind turbines are located, there's usually a whole bunch of them that are located together in what's called a wind farm. And the offshore wind parks in Denmark, the Netherlands, the UK, those are typical countries that have wind farms off their coasts. There's also off of Cape Cod, right here, much closer to home, in Massachusetts, in Nantucket Sound. They're trying to put in 130 wind turbines there that would be capable of producing 420 megawatts of electricity, which would cover about 75% of the electricity used by Cape Cod. And so on this picture here, we can see, again, this is a wind park or a wind farm off the coast of Denmark. And here we can see that wind capacity is one of the largest growing fields of electricity generation really in the world. And we can see that the global installed wind energy capacity, so in terms of the gigawatts of electricity that we can produce, has increased exponentially over the past 10 or 20 years or so. And briefly talking about wind energy being a non-depletable energy resource, as we said, it is the fastest growing major source of electricity in the world. It's non-depletable. I mean, as long as the sun's there, we're always going to have the uneven and unequal heating of the earth. There's no air pollution, no water pollution. It's clean, and the land, instead of taking a whole bunch of space like in solar, the CST heating that we talked about earlier, again, with that land can be used for other things. Disadvantages, though, sometimes the windmills can be a bit noisy, and aesthetics. There's something called NIMBY, not in my backyard. People like the idea of wind turbines, but they don't like them close to where they live. And the project off of Cape Cod has generated a lot of controversy over the wind turbines, because people, when they look out, people that own beachfront property, an oceanfront property on Cape Cod, don't want to look out into their ocean view and see a whole bunch of wind turbines. There is some study about the migration patterns of birds being disrupted by wind turbines. The National Academy of the Sciences lists as many 40,000 birds may be killed by wind turbines in the U.S. each year, which is about four deaths per turbine. Um, but again, that's research is being looked into. The other issue is batteries, like we talked about earlier. Battery storage and then battery disposal um, could potentially be a source of chemical leakage and toxic waste into the environment. But as long as that's kept to a minimum, wind power is certainly advantageous. So we've got our 3 checkpoint questions here. What are the most practical and feasible locations for wind farms? How is wind used to generate electricity? And how did near, offshore, and land-based wind farms differ? How are they the same? So again, read through the section here. You'll be able to find those answers and get these questions answered, preferably on Edmodo. And once you're done here, you can move on to section 8, which is all about hydrogen fuel cells.